This is The Road Show, and I'm your host, David Warren. On today's program, I will be speaking with listener favorite Jim Stovall about two great topics, personal growth and winning in life. Jim has released a new book called Coach for Life, and he's here to coach us for the hour. Let's welcome back our friend, Jim Stovall. Good to have you back, Jim.
It is always great to be with you, David. I enjoy it. I mean, one of the good things about having a new book out means I get to visit with you again, so it's always fun.
Yes, you have a standing invitation because nothing you write or produce for Hollywood, the movies, I should say, is ever boring, always interesting, and you have not disappointed with this new book called Coach for Life. This is the first book, to my knowledge, in which you have combined two of your passions, sports and motivation. Tell us about the premise of this book.
Well, this book came to me in 2024. I had planned to write two books, and I wrote them earlier in the year and thought I was done, and then I slipped up and wrote four more books. I wrote 6 books that year, and this was the 5th of the 6th, and it came to me, one of my coaches when I was an Olympic weightlifter had just passed away not long ago, and I was thinking of the impact he had on me, not just as an athlete, but in my life. And so I wanted to tell a story, and, whether it's real life or morality tales or scriptures or anything else, often the best way to get a point across is to tell a story. So I made up a guy who spent his whole life, 50 years, coaching football, basketball, and baseball in a little tiny town. And then he dies, and the entire story is his memorial service that takes place in the football stadium in the little town, and you see the impact that one guy can have on, famous and influential people all around the world just through that. And we all have those. I mean, this is certainly not unique to me, whether it's a coach, a teacher, a scout leader, somebody, we all had those kind of people. And the passing of my coach made me want to write this book.
That's lovely. Well, before we dive into the book, I would like to recap your history in both the areas of sports and motivation. And let's get started by talking about your early days. Would you have considered yourself a jock?
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. It's just all I ever did. I mean, my goal, my ambition as a young man was to be an All-American football player and then go into the NFL and make my living playing football. And the scouts and the coaches and the people that monitor those kind of things assured me that I had the size and speed to do that. So I thought my life was pretty well set. And then during a routine physical to go play another season of football, I was diagnosed with this condition that would eventually cause me to lose my sight, and a bit of quick research told me there's no blind guys playing in the NFL, so I had to go do something else, and through divine intervention, I discovered the competitive weightlifting in the Olympic team, and I got to finish my athletic career doing that, and then did lose my sight in my 20s, and developed the company I now run, Narrative Television, and we make movies and TV accessible for 13 million blind and visually impaired Americans and many, many more around the world. And out of that, I started getting asked to do speaking and things about success. And then next thing, there were the books, and out of that came the movies. And then I get to talk to David Warren on the radio.
I love it. You are so good with your elevator speech there. I can only imagine you've said that 1,000 times to people sitting next to you on an airplane when you're asked, "So what do you do, sir?" Did I hear you say that you based this fictitious coach that's the protagonist in your new book, Coach for Life, the coach in the book, his name is Mason G. Edwards. You said you based him on your weightlifting coach?
Some of the things he taught and some of the ways he dealt with his athletes, yeah, I got the inspiration for that. But Mason G. Edwards is a figment of my imagination, and the story is, it's just kind of to show what one person can do to impact the world. Think of Jimmy Stewart and It's a Wonderful Life. One person can make that kind of difference.
Well, the reason I ask that is because you had plenty of football coaches up until that point, but when you were weightlifting, you knew you were going blind. So I didn't know if maybe there was some inspiration that your weightlifting coach added on to teaching you how to properly weightlift.
Yeah, he was very late in his career, turned out, and he knew that was eventually going to be my life, and we never talked about it. We stayed focused on what we were doing. The difference between a weightlifting coach or an Olympic coach and a football coach that I was used to having, a football coach deals with 80 or 100 guys. My weightlifting coach, man, it's you and him. And weightlifting is one of those sports, you can't blame the guy. I mean, the guy didn't get his block, or the handoff was late, or the ball was too low. None of that. It's just you. And you either do or you don't. But then I remember our last competition for a championship, and, we had a pretty serious conversation, and he said, I think, you and I both know what this means. And he said, I'm not talking about winning and losing here. I'm talking about in the next few minutes you're going to get to do something that very few people ever get to do, to see if you're the best at one thing, whatever it is. And he said, you and I can both live with whether you are or not. What we can't live with is you leaving anything on the table. So win, lose, or draw in the next few minutes, what is required here is the very best effort that you were endowed with. And we did that, and across the office from me here where I'm sitting talking to you, in a little frame on a shelf, is a gold medal that came from that day. And I think of that often. And then after we were getting ready to part company, he finally talked about my blindness, and he said, look, I don't know anything about that. I don't know what you're facing. But he said, here's what I do know. A guy that can do what you just did can do absolutely anything. And he said, I want you to remember that. And I remembered that. And then later on, when I wrote my first novel that was turned into the first film in the Ultimate Gift trilogy, I ripped off his line and gave it to Brian Dennehy with a young man that was building a fence. And then at the end of it, he said, don't ever forget, a man that can build a good fence can go do anything. And I everything becomes fodder for future stories and things.
Well, Jim, do you still lift weights?
I don't let anybody know, but I just had my 67th birthday. So, no, I have these amazing things, these bands at my house, giant rubber bands that I work out with, and you get the same kind of a workout, but you don't put all the strain on the joints. And it's actually more effective because when you're lifting weights, the first inch you push is the hardest, and then when you get to the extension, it gets easier. Well, the bands are the exact opposite. I mean, when you get to the extension, it gets pretty tough out there. So, and the great thing about it is I can throw all my bands in the bottom of my carry-on and take them anywhere in the world, and it works. And, I don't have to go to the gym or anything, so there's no excuse for Jim not to do his workout.
Well, I'm on the blue band currently. I have upgraded to the black one, but it's kind of challenging. I guess you're at the black, or I think the silver might be the really tough one.
Yeah. When a guy told me about this, I said, well, I'll go get some. He said, no, let me find the ones for you. And he sent them to me. So, yeah, I don't think this is the normal thing, but, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. It just, it's like a whole gym in a little box for me.
All right. Well, the thing is you're a big guy. If somebody could see your picture right now, you played football and then you were, and let's call you a weightlifter or a band stretcher. So you've got to keep that body in shape because of what you built.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful because so many guys I played ball with and so many guys I was on the Olympic team with, they are falling apart, and they've had to have, knees and hips and everything replaced. And I have a friend down in Dallas reconstructing his shoulder right now. And I am very blessed and highly favored to be able to tell you I sit here today with all of my original equipment, and everything seems to be working. So I'm going to keep it going as long as I can there.
Jim Stovall is our very special guest for the hour. And finally, we get to talk about sports a little bit. He has a long history of sports, but also motivation, and he has combined both in this new book called Coach for Life. Again, his name is Jim Stovall. I'm David Warren, and we'll dive into the book after this. I'm David Warren here with some exciting news for Oasis listeners. We have a new mobile device app. It's free, easy to download, and lets you enjoy our refreshing music and talk everywhere you go. If you have an Android cell phone, go to the Google Play Store. And if you have an iPhone or iPad, visit the Apple Store and search for Oasis Radio Network. Be an Oasis ambassador and share this news with family and friends around the world. Oasis Network. Jim Stovall is back with us on the Road Show. I'm David Warren, your host. And Jim, you have already told us that Coach for Life, your new book, is it's a novel is what it is. It's a parable, and you teach life lessons through your new book. And you did something very similar with your Ultimate Gift book series, also your movies. This would make a great movie. Is this one of the ones you're working on, or at least thinking about making into a movie?
As I speak with you, I have a meeting later this week with movie producers that are flying in to talk to me about it, and it is such a prime candidate for a film because there's this new technology called XR, which is like a green screen on steroids, and if you were shooting a film in a large area, let's say we were going to make a movie in the Grand Canyon, you could shoot the Grand Canyon one time, then go into this studio and work on this sound stage in the studio and make the whole movie there. Saves a lot of time and a lot of money, and because this story mostly takes place in a football stadium, you shoot it one time and you're on the sound stage the rest of the time. So, I think you will see this on the screen in the next year or two.
And
I really do.
Who is your dream actor to play Mason G. Edwards, the coach?
I have talked to a few people, and we will have to have several of those because there are these flashbacks. And like in the Ultimate Gift series, I originally wanted Paul Newman, and his age and health wouldn't allow him, so we got James Garner, which was a true blessing, and it was an amazing time. But we also had two actors, younger actors, that could play him, and I'm waiting till they show me the treatment, the actual movie version of the story, and I'd like to get an A-list person in the story, and it will depend on what age we flash back to, because the main character's already died in this, and it's a matter of, but he coached for 50 years, so I could have somebody 20-something playing him, and I can have somebody 60 or 70-something playing him. So I remain open to that. There's a few things I would like to put in this movie, and there's a scene where a young man who the coach encouraged with his music turned into an international rock star, and I envisioned Carlos Santana playing that, and I have some feelers out to him to see if he would actually come and do this for me. And, I told the producers I have no idea whether he will or won't, but at least we're going to have him tell us no. I mean, I'm at least going to give him a shot.
Now, Mason G. Edwards, the coach in the book, he coaches many things. Football, basketball, baseball, so he kind of covers the whole gamut there. Tell us about some of your coaches in your past. What was a good coach? What was a bad coach?
Well, a good coach realizes you're dealing with a young person here, and it's a person. And a good coach realizes, particularly high school or college, they realize, okay, this is not the Super Bowl. And they realize 90+% of their players are never going to play anything at the next level. So, and they also realized we're here to win and learn lessons and have fun. And a lot of coaches, even Little League coaches, they lose that. They act like, they want to take over the kids' lives, and they want to relive their frustrated athletic career through these kids. And, it's really about, there's some life lessons that can be learned, in competition that really can't be learned any other way. But I also think, you've got to remember, these people are going to be business people and housewives and teachers and everything else you can imagine out in the real world. And so that's the thing I think that's really, really important. And, we need to, at the high school and college level, we need to keep a good perspective on what it is we're trying to do here.
So really they need to combine the sports element as well as instilling life lessons or attributes that will help these young people, boys and girls, grow into whatever they become in life and be better at it.
Yeah, and that's what happens in Coach for Life. I mean, show up on time, do your best, learn what it means to be part of a team. We win or lose together, and, all of those sorts of things.
So many of your books have included the late basketball coach John Wooden of the UCLA Bruins, the basketball team there. What was it about this particular coach that has made such an impact on you and made it into so many of your books?
Well, when I was a kid, I remember my father and I enjoyed sports a lot. My dad had been a minor league baseball player, and that was his passion. But there were several things we would always watch, and we would watch John Wooden's UCLA Bruins play basketball. They won 10 out of 12 national championships. No one's even come close to that, and I don't think that will ever be approached again. And so we would always watch the coach. We would always watch Jack Nicklaus play golf, and when it came on, we would watch Muhammad Ali. And those three seemed to be our go-tos, and it's just amazed me that later in my life, through my books, I have interaction with all three. Coach Wooden, my staff here knew that I loved him. I mean, I had photos of him in my office here, and I remember the day a young lady comes running down the hall and said, "Jim, John Wooden's on the phone, wants to talk to you." And I thought, hey, I appreciate your excitement, but, I mean, there's got to be 50,000 guys in America named John Wooden. Come on. I mean, and she said, well, there probably aren't 50,000 that want you to autograph a book to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I said, probably not, no. And I picked up the phone, and that began an amazing relationship. He was 95 years old at the time, and we lost him just before his 100th birthday. And he and I talked almost every week for those 5 years, and it was a tremendously impactful thing in my life, and so many takeaways, so many things. And then when I did a couple of my celebrity books, Success Secrets of Superachievers and Ultimate Hindsight, I got to interview Jack Nicklaus in a very similar situation, just so many great lessons. And then across the office for me again, at the risk of being redundant, next to the gold medal over there on the shelf is a boxing glove signed by Muhammad Ali that I got from the champ. And so I think those people emulate so much of what you can be successful in life. If you can take it from the golf course or the basketball floor or the boxing ring and take it into your daily life and apply those principles, you'll have similar success to theirs.
In the book, Coach for Life, you say that Coach Wooden left you with two phrases that have empowered your life. Tell us what these two phrases are.
Well, one of the things a number of things, I will never forget, he had a sign over the door to his locker room when people would come in, and, and it said, we teach everything here except effort and attitude. If you show up with effort and attitude, you can do anything else. But if you don't show up with effort and attitude, there's nothing you can do. And then probably Coach's most enduring phrase for me is before you do anything, before you answer an email, before you go into a meeting, before you do an interview with David Warren, you ask yourself one simple question. What would I do right now if I were amazing? Not adequate, not good enough, not meet expectations. What would I do if I was amazing right now? And, if you start approaching things like that in your life and you do the next thing right and the right thing next and you're amazing, and the next thing you know, you had an amazing day and then an amazing week and an amazing month, and someday you look back and said, wow, I had an amazing life. And that's one of the most powerful things Coach taught me is just everything matters. And, and he always told his players that in a basketball game, there's really only a handful of plays that really matter. Unfortunately, I can't tell you when those are. So you have to go 100% all the time. And just amazing wisdom. And in all our conversations, very little of it had to do anything with basketball. He told me, he said, Jim, I always thought of myself as a teacher, and my classroom was a 90-foot basketball court.
Mm-hmm. The other phrase I wanted to mention that's in your book from Coach Wooten is, things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And I thought of the Narrative Television Network, and you obviously see the tie-in there. You were going blind, and you were a frustrated young blind man. Tell us that story.
Well, I did, after my weightlifting career, I did lose my sight in my 20s, and I didn't know what to do. I'd never met a blind person. I had no idea what you did when you go blind. So I moved into this little 9 by 12-foot room in the back of my house, and I had my radio, my telephone, my tape recorder, and that was my whole world. I really thought I'd never leave here. And, and then it gets kind of boring when you sit in a little room all day, every day, and across the room there from me, I remembered that had been our TV room before I'd lost my sight, and I knew there was a TV over there and a video player with all my favorite classic movies, and one day out of just sheer boredom, I put on an old Humphrey Bogart film called The Big Sleep, a Philip Marlowe story. And I thought, I've seen that so many times, I'll just be able to listen and follow along. And it worked for a little while, but then somebody shot somebody, and somebody screamed, and the car sped away, and I got really frustrated, and I said the magic words. I said, somebody ought to do something about that. And I tell my audiences in arena events or the people who read my books, the next time you get frustrated and you hear yourself say, somebody ought to do something about that, you just had a great idea. And the whole world's praying for a great idea, and they trip over one about 3 times a week. The only thing you got to do to have a great idea is go through your daily life, wait for something bad to happen, and ask yourself, how could I have avoided that? And the answer is a great idea. And the only thing you got to do to turn that great idea into a great business is ask one more question. How could I help other people avoid that problem? And the world will give you fame and fortune and significance and notoriety and legacy if you will just care about them and help them solve their problems.
And you won an Emmy Award for this idea that you brought into reality.
Yeah, we won an Emmy Award, and it opened so many other doors for me, and celebrity interviews, and then later speeches and books, and then the movies, and then all the things that have happened to me in my world.
Is there such a thing as branching out with the Narrative Television Network to things like YouTube that need narration for those who are blind?
Yeah, we're seeing more of that coming to the forefront, and honestly, some of that stuff is not widely enough distributed. Some of it is, but some of it isn't widely enough distributed. But what we see happening is the new technology and AI and some of those things are going to are going to make those things accessible as time goes by. We're already starting to see that.
Interesting. Jim Stovall is back with us today. He's written a new book called Coach for Life. The subtitle is A Parable of Learning How to Play the Game, Live Your Life, and Win. This book is available wherever books are sold, including online booksellers. Well, I'm David Warren talking with our friend Jim Stovall. And this new book is peppered with motivational quotes from that fictitious coach, Mason G. Edwards. But I want to know who the real author of these quotes is. I'll ask Jim that question right after this.
I'm Karen Jensen Salisbury, one of the hosts you hear on the Oasis Network Roadshow. For 35 years, this 1 hour of the day has inspired and motivated you, our listeners, with thousands of stories of people whose lives demonstrate the truth that with God, all things are possible. It's an hour that you should make a part of your day, Monday through Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.
Here's a little bit about today's guest, Jim Stovall. He has been a National Olympic weightlifting champion, the president of the Emmy Award-winning Narrative Television Network, and a highly sought-after author and platform speaker. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Ultimate Gift, which is a major motion picture, and 6 of his other novels have also been made into movies, with several more in production, including this new book, maybe turning into a movie soon, called Coach for Life. Let's take the maybe out. I'm sure it will turn into a great movie, Jim. Okay, so this new book is about a fictitious coach, Mason G. Edwards. He taught football, basketball, baseball, but it was what he taught his students, what he taught his players, I should say, the life lessons. And so each one of the chapters starts with a Mason G. Edwards quote. But since he is fictitious, you had to come up with these quotes from somewhere, and I'm highly suspicious I'm talking to the quote maker himself. Am I, Jim?
Yes, sir. And once you create a character, they become very real to you. I mean, it's like my friend David Warren. I know your personality. I know kind of where it's going. You and I have had so many of these conversations over the years, and, I know the flow of it. Well, when it comes to Mason G. Edwards, during a month or two of writing that book, he became extremely real to me. And coming up with things he would say are not that hard to do.
I want to read some of the quotes that kick off each chapter and just have you comment as you will. The first one I want to say is, or you said, is excellence becomes possible when we get over the notion that life is fair.
Yeah, I mean, we have a tendency to think possibility is limited because of our current situation or where we are or what we are. And your past doesn't equal your future. I mean, what is possible? Emerson said there's nothing capricious about nature. It doesn't fool you. We were created by a loving God, and anything that's inside of you, the hopes, the dreams, the callings, the ambitions, if they're really deeply inside of you, you have the wherewithal to achieve them. God would not have put those inside of you and me if we didn't have the capacity to achieve them. So the question is never can we. The question is will we. And the world belongs to the man or woman that will go out and believe in the dream inside of them more than the reality around them.
Jim, when you were going blind as a young man, I'm sure that you struggled with that life isn't fair thing. How did you get over that?
Two pieces of wisdom. One came from the scriptures that says all things work together for good. And now it didn't say all things are good. It said all things work together for good. And then a Napoleon Hill statement in the same vein that every setback, every heartache is endowed with the seed of the greater good. I mean, somewhere in every setback, in every difficulty, there is an advantage, there is a possibility, there's a greater good. And, I can see those in my life. And but the hard thing is you got to believe in them when they're not there. I mean, And, my blindness is no more difficult than people listening to us now who are going through divorces or disabilities or, bankruptcies or loss of a job or, just all the daily difficulties that people deal with, because we're all only as big as the smallest thing it takes to divert us from where we're supposed to be. So, the idea that life is fair, and for those of us who are the lucky 4 or 5% that live on the planet, that live in the United States, if you start feeling sorry for yourself and thinking life isn't fair, I could recommend a couple of third world countries that 24 hours there will totally change your outlook forever.
Here's another quote that stems from that. You say the quickest way to get what you want is to be thankful for what you already have.
Yeah, and that goes back to my grandmother when I was 5 years old, teaching me about the Golden List, and I had a sister who was dealing with leukemia. She eventually lost her life to leukemia when I was a little kid, and I had to go live with my grandparents, and apparently I was not real pleased with that, but my parents were taking my sister all around the country for treatment, and for those people who saw the Ultimate Gift movie, the little girl in there dying from leukemia was not as much fiction as many people would probably imagine. But apparently one day I was really complaining to my grandmother about how bad everything was, and I didn't have my friends and my toys and my dog and, all the 5-year-old stuff. And she said, well, now we have a rule here at our house. You can complain all you want as soon as you fill out your Golden List. And I said, what's a Golden List? And she said, well, you've got to write down 10 things you're thankful for. And I remember my first Golden List, I wasn't even old enough to write. She wrote it down for me. But I wrote down 10 things I was thankful for, and that started a practice that I continue to this day, over 60 years later. Every morning I start with a Golden List of things I'm thankful for, and it's hard to do that and then go out and have a bad day. It really is.
What are some of the hits of the Golden List? Your best hits?
Well, I get up ridiculously early. I have an office at home next to our bedroom, and I'm usually in there by 4 a.m. and starting my morning routine and my study and the things I do. And when I come in, right inside the door, there is a poster, framed poster my staff here at the office gave me, and I know it says success is, and then it lists 36 things that are attributes of success. But number one is marry the right person. So every day when I come in there, I reach over there and touch the corner of that frame, and I realize, okay, whatever else happens today, thanks to Miss Crystal, on 44 years on our way to forever together, I got that one right. And so Crystal's usually near the top of my Golden List every day. And then I am thankful for my staff and the people who, because I'm a guy that outside of my home or this office, I never am alone. I go somewhere with somebody all the time. And so, I have these people that, that make everything possible for me. And one of the things that success can often cloud in someone's mind is you start thinking how great you are and you did this on your own. And thankfully, I don't have to deal with that because, I can be on stage in front of 18,000 people in an arena event and get a wonderful standing ovation. But I realize I can't get on or off this stage or back to the airport without my valued colleague right over there that makes this possible. And so I always endeavor to thank them personally and publicly for all of those situations.
There was a coaching quote by Mason G. Edwards, a.k.a. Jim Stovall, our guest today, that caught my eye, and I think it needs a little explanation. You say, the worst thing you can be is a thief, and the worst thing you can steal is time. Now, I would have thought that the worst thing is to have your time stolen, but are we stealing others' time?
Yes. When you're late, when you disregard what people are doing, yeah. And this, my brother and I, we lost our father. He passed away 2 years ago. age 92, and very healthy and happy right till the end, and we were grateful for that. But if you were to call my brother right now and ask him or me, what's the enduring lesson, the first lesson, fundamental thing you learned from your father, it's if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. Mm-hmm. And he was just such a big thing about that, because, when you're late for things, what you're saying, whether you mean it or not, what you're communicating is, my time's more important than your time, and I really don't care. And I know that may not be what you meant, but that's what people are hearing and experiencing from you. And there's nothing you can do that's more respectful than respect people's time and show up and, be ready and do what you say you're going to do. And, working in the movie business, you raise millions of dollars and you stand around 12 hours a day and bleed money. And I don't care how talented someone is on the screen. If you can't show up on time and know your lines and be ready to go, you can't work long term in that business. It just, and I get contacted. I have 10 million books in print, and my phone number or email addresses in all of them, and we respond to people. And one of the things people want to know is, how can I be an arena speaker? Boy, you got to be there when you say you're going to be there, and that is not as easy as you think. I mean, the airlines, you may have experienced this, they don't always get you where you want to go when you wanted to be there. So I have to have 2 or 3 backup flights, and then when you go on stage, I don't care who you are or how enlightened you are. If you're supposed to do 50 minutes or an hour 12 or whatever you're supposed to do, you got to bring it in on time. I mean, you just can't take a promoter that's put this whole program together and leave them hanging out there. And I think valuing time, any other commodity we have, you can steal someone's money, they can go get it back. I mean, they can earn more money, they can do other things. But you steal someone's time, they don't get it back. And so that's where that came from.
So if you're having your time stolen, do you set up boundaries?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are people, I have series of boundaries now in my life. If I'm in the middle of a book project or a movie project or, just a crunch time on a business thing, there are certain people in my world that the staff knows, tell them I'm tied up, I'll call them back when I have a chance. And that's what they get. And, there are certain people that they don't respect those things. So, I have a guy coming in later this week who is one of those guys. He'll be 20 minutes late to his own funeral. So when I see him on the calendar, I always plan to be in the middle of something. I'll be writing my column actually that day and getting ahead on those. So, I mean, I can actually be doing something until he actually arrives and graces us with his presence. Because, he just cannot be anywhere on time. And, I have told him in the past, I would love to have about half of what your tardiness has cost you throughout your life. You have no idea what it's done to you.
Did you ever have a sports coach that sent players home that were late?
Yeah, that's where that came from in the book. One of the first lessons is a young man that couldn't get there on time. And, that's just a critical thing. I mean, because you're part of a team, and the team moves with the slowest member. And you start thinking, I was a college athlete. I was actually on a track team at Oral Roberts University. And, I mean, you had to be on the bus when the bus leaves, because here's all these other people, and they have different competitions and things they have to do. And, if you can't get to the bus on time, you can't go. That's all there is to it. And the same thing with, I was making fun of the airline. They don't always get you there on time, but, sometimes when they leave on time, they'll leave, and they don't really care whether you made it or not. They'll just go ahead and leave without you.
Wow. Well, one more coaching quote before we take our final break with Jim Stovall, our very special guest. And again, these quotes are from his new book, Coach for Life, available wherever books are sold. And here is the Coach Edwards, a.k.a. Jim Stovall quote, "Turn your best performance into a habit. Turn your best performance into a habit. So what do you think is your best performance, Jim? I would say speaking, writing.
Yeah, and I do those very on purpose. They are a habit. And the thing, I have a morning routine that starts at 4 a.m. and it's a habit. It's like brushing your teeth and taking a shower and that stuff just starts to happen. And in addition to the books you're familiar with, I write detective novels and things. And I remember sitting down with one of my people, and I'm going to describe this guy getting in a car and driving. And you'll be happy to know I don't drive. So I said, hey, you walk out of your house, walk over to your car. Tell me everything you do. Well, you get in and you put it in reverse and you get back out in the street. And I said, no, you didn't even turn the car on. You didn't. Well, it was hard to get somebody to describe the whole process to me because it all happens automatically. They never even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that we do the best, we need to get into routine. And ball players, you see, do this all the time. I mean, they'll have their routine when they get up to bat or before they throw a pitch, and they do not vary from it a bit. And, great golfers, I watched the Tour Championship. Well, it was actually on my satellite radio this weekend, and the Tour Championship, and a guy does his same routine before he hits a putt, and if he gets interrupted, there's a noise in the crowd or whatever, he'll step back and start over from the beginning. I mean, it happens every time, the same way every time, because you turn that performance into a habit, and you just follow the habit. You don't want to leave it up to chance.
All right, Jim Stovall back with us on The Road Show. I'm David Warren, your host. We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, there's one final quote I would like to ask Coach Stovall about, and we will do so after this. I'm David Warren, Program Director at Oasis Radio Network and one of the hosts of this podcast. All of our hosts enjoy hearing from you, our listening family, so drop us a note. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and you'll receive new episodes on your mobile devices. And now, back to the show. We are being coached by perhaps the greatest coach that I know, Jim Stovall. He has a book called Coach for Life, a parable of learning how to play the game, live your life, and win. And I think you're the ultimate coach, but do you have a life coach, Jim?
I have coaches in every area of my life that I give permission to monitor and oversee what I'm doing. And yes, whether it's my writing, my business, now through the Stovall Center for Entrepreneurship at the university, I've had to learn academia. And boy, I'm going to tell you, 5 years ago when we started teaching young people from around the world who were getting their degrees in entrepreneurship, I learned I don't know anything about this. I mean, I went to college, but I didn't realize there was so much involved in this. So yeah, I have to find people and humble myself and learn important lessons. And I think we all need to do that.
Can you give us an update on the ORU Stovall Center for Entrepreneurship?
Well, I am very pleased. We've graduated 2 classes now that have gone all the way through, and ORU is such a unique environment. We have students from 150 nations on campus, and I get to teach there several times each semester in the various entrepreneur classes, and it's like a United Nations meeting when I get there, and the kids, well, I'll brag a little on them, not me. Every year there's a competition. The students actually start businesses and then make a presentation to a group of judges, and there's 10 awards that are given out to universities across the country, and this last year, no university got more than 1, and we got 4 of them. And the kids do phenomenal job. And I all due respect to the professors and the people that work with the kids. And our kids are. I had a guy from the graduate school in Johns Hopkins call me last week, and he said, so what are you doing that we're not doing? Do you think your kids have better ideas? And I said, no. Your kids have great ideas. our kids know how to get up on a stage and tell a story. And that's what it really comes down to. They can deliver a message with power and passion about their business. And so, yeah, that's a great thing. But I've learned so much about teaching young people and what they learn and what they didn't learn.
You're really a coach for them.
Yeah. It's very much that kind of process, and I enjoy the kids, and it is. But it's new for me because. You learn all these things and you teach them to the kids, and they get to the end of the school year, and then we have a nice summer break, and then all of a sudden they send you a whole bunch of new kids that don't know anything again, and here we go again, and it's a cycle, and it's challenging.
It's so much like sports, isn't it?
Yeah. No matter how well you did yesterday, it's what have you done for me lately?
Wow. Okay, so when did this idea for the new book, Coach for Life, come to you? Why did you think there was a need for this book?
Well, it's when my coach passed away, and I thought about him, and I started thinking about all the things I had learned from him, and then I realized, wow, this is a book, because everybody has somebody like this in your life, a teacher, a scout leader, somebody at your church, I don't know, but everybody has somebody that spoke into their life when they were young, and this is a great tribute to them. And in the opening of the book, I tell my readers, my hope is that you will remember those people in your life and pick up the phone and call them or send them a thank you or something, and then be constantly aware of the fact that you are this for somebody. I mean, you are teaching all of the impressionable people around you. You're teaching them something. Whether you realize it or not, you're teaching them something, and if you're not purposely teaching them powerful things, you're probably teaching them some bad habits. So it's important to realize it's not just about you or me, it's about the people around us that are looking at us, and leaders are leaders all the time. You don't get a day off.
Again, the name of the new book, Coach for Life by Jim Stovall. It has 21 chapters, and all of the chapter titles start with the words winning through, and then there's a Mason G. Edwards story wrapped into that with a person that was influenced by Coach Edwards. And, for example, some of the chapter titles, winning through collaboration, winning through time, winning through ownership, through learning, through overcoming, through integrity, through effort, through giving, through planning, through laughter, through gratitude, through legacy. And the first chapter is called Winning Through Reading. And the quote you have by Coach Edwards, which again is you, Jim Stovall, is the key to anything you want to be, do, or have is within the pages of a book. So besides this new book and the Bible, God's holy word, what other books should all of us listening to you today be reading?
If you haven't read it before or read it recently, Napoleon Hill's book he wrote in 1935, Think and Grow Rich, is the basis for most people like me that write these kind of books. It's different than any other book because he was able to go out and interview 500 of the most successful people of his generation, everybody from Thomas Edison to J.C. Penney to Helen Keller to, on and on and on. And 500 of these people, and he synthesized what he learned from them into the science of success and 17 principles. So if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, you should do it, and I read it probably once a year, go back and reread it, and I swear every year they put something in there that was not in there the last 12 times I read this book. And when the pupil is ready, the teacher does arrive.
I love that. People say that about the Bible as well. They've read it through so many times, and then something will pop out at them as a revelation, as we call it, that they never noticed before. Tell us about your website, jimstovall.com.
Well, you can go there and learn more than you want to know about me, and it's just kind of tells about me and narrative television and some of the books and the movies, and and it's all, and it won't surprise you to know I have very little to do with the website. Somebody figures all that out and puts it up there, because it's all of that stuff on a computer is a bit of a mystery to me. I mean, you're talking about a guy that I made my living doing TV for the blind, and I write books I can't read that are turned into movies I can't watch. So, when people tell me they don't feel equipped, I just have to laugh at them,
Well, I can testify that the new look of your website looks really good, by the way, Jim. And one of the things we always chuckle about here is the fact that you put your phone number, the number I called you at today, in all of your books, which is 918-627-1000. That's 918-627-1000. And you dare the listeners, the readers, the viewers to actually reach out to you. So do you have any fun or even wacky stories since we spoke last about people that have contacted you?
Yeah, we get the tragic things. That I have a service that, our phones are answered around the clock, and we've avoided some suicides and some crisis things. But I had a guy call me a couple of months ago from Homer, Alaska, and he said he left a message with the service in the middle of the night. He said, "I want to thank you for the kidney transplant." And when I got in the next morning, I said, "What is this?" I called my foundation. I said, "Are we doing something for kidney transplant?" I didn't know. And they said no. So I called this guy back, and I said, "Appreciate your call, but you may have the wrong guy." He said, "No, I got the right guy." He said, my doctor told me I was going to die if I didn't get a transplant, and I joined this organ exchange thing, and thankfully the last day or two of my life, they gave me a kidney through this, and when I got feeling better, I called them and said, "Would you put me in touch with the family of whoever's kidney I got?" And they came back to me and told me, "The person who gave you a kidney is alive and gave a kidney to a stranger, and they want to be anonymous, and their message is, if you want to thank anybody for the fact you have a kidney, call Jim Stovall and thank him for writing The Ultimate Gift and having a story about a kidney transplant." And stories like that make it worth it to keep getting up every day and doing what you do.
Wow, I've got a big old smile on my face, Jim. That is such a great story. So really, people, whenever they call, unless it's a wackadoodle call, most of the time they're really calling for coaching, I would guess, something about their life that they want to change. So what would you say, as we get ready to wrap up, is the most asked coaching question that you receive from your viewers, listeners, etc., readers?
I think first reason people call me from around the world is they really want to know, is there really a guy that will talk to me? And they don't really believe that. And then the next thing is this real? Can I really do more than I'm doing? I mean, is the reality I'm living today, the rut I'm in, is that who I am? Or is this higher calling, is that really available to me? And they want to know if it's real. And, and I tell them, whether you think it's real or you think it's not, you're right. It's the reality of it is all up to you. You've been given everything you need to get everything you want and make a difference for other people. And the question is, will you hold on to that dream and keep doing it all day, every day?
I love it. I just thought of an idea. It would make kind of a neat book of you being the main protagonist, and it's all about the different phone calls you receive from around the world and the advice or input that you give to these callers. I think that might make a good book, too.
Hey, I will put that on the project list
all right.
with the other ideas we have for projects. I like it.
If you do it, you owe me lunch.
You got it, man.
Okay, so tell us before we go, obviously the book is available. Coach for Life by the inimitable Jim Stovall is available wherever books are sold. You can learn more about him on his website, jimstovall.com, JIMSTOVALL.com, or you can call 918-627-1000. So remind us what's in the mix for a movie about this book.
I have a meeting coming up, and a major group is wanting to turn Coach for Life into a film and use some new technology that is just become available that's perfect for this story. So hopefully we will have an announcement about that soon.
Excellent. So stay tuned to the Roadshow. And I want to thank our very special guest, Coach Jim Stovall. Thank you again,
Thank
Jim.
you, my friend.
All right, I'm David Warren, and it's been another great Roadshow.
You've been listening to The Roadshow. If you'd like to write to us, here's our address. The Roadshow, P.O. Box 1924, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74101. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. The views of today's guest aren't necessarily those of this station, but we do appreciate and thank our guest for spending this time with us. The Road Show, an Oasis Network presentation.